Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the I Love Me podcast, where we talk about self love, sharing our negative experiences while highlighting the positive experiences. I'm here with another special guest.
Special indeed. My name is Shaniah Duncombe. Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm feeling lovely. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a very long day here, but we're getting through it. I know that you recently celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, yes. Don't turn 20 then.
So I think we should just get right into it. So tell the viewers about yourself.
Well, I'm from the Bahamas, currently 20. Oh, yes. I'm a sociology major with a minor in psychology. I'm looking into becoming an honors student. Most of my passion flows from my love of people and wanting to help others. But yeah, it's not much to say about me. I can be a bit impatient at times. That's one negative, but my friends grow to love it.
Nice, nice, nice. So, um, how long have you been in Canada?
I've been in Canada since 2018
2018. Have you
fall.
lived in the Bahamas all of your life?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, like, you've come from a predominantly black country. We're from the same country.
Yes.
You've come from a predominantly black country. You now to a country where you're the minority. How did that feel for you?
Honestly, it wasn't. I wouldn't say that it was a shock because in the Bahamas we don't really speak much about racial differences. It's more about prejudice, discrimination, and so on between who's too black and who's not black enough. And so coming to a country where it's a distinct cut off between black and white,
Yeah.
um, it was something that I had to get used to, and it's a lot of things that I also had to learn about. So that was something that I gradually started picking up on the longer I was in Canada.
Nice. You said you had to learn about a few things. Would you mind sharing us about the things that you had to learn about?
Yeah, sure. So microaggressions, for example.
Yeah.
I would go as far as saying that those things really don't exist in the Bahamas. And so there's this one story where I was in Jennings, and this lady, she came up to me and she was like, "Oh my God, I love your hair." And she started like touching my hair, and she was like, "Wow, like what is this? Like it looks
Oh,
so
wow.
different." And honestly, I was just like so naive, and I didn't understand what was genuinely happening in the moment. And I was
Yeah.
answering her questions, and I was like, well, she's interested in my hair. Until a good friend, um, Royal, pulled me over, and he was like, dude, that's not okay. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, she's just asking me about my hair. And he was like, no, like, that's like, it's so racist. Like, and it's the way that she did it. She's touching your hair. She's looking at you like it's something she's never seen before. Like, you're some exotic thing. And that was my first experience. Another experience with microaggressions is like I'll just be walking on the street, and then like person like just clutch their purse or tries to like walk far away from me, and I'm like, dude, it's not that serious. Like
Yeah.
I'm going about my day just as you are. So
So, like, I've never experienced microaggressions back at home as well. But, like, coming here, we've experienced different sets of, like, microaggressions from, like, different sets of people. It was that, like, since you've experienced that, have you felt like an outcast or like you didn't belong in Canada since you've experienced, like, those microaggressions?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I feel like I don't belong. And I would definitely say that I don't feel that way because of the great friends that I surround myself with. But outside of that, it's mainly just I just ignore it to some extent until it's like so hard for me to ignore that it bothers me.
Right.
But I would not go to the extent of saying that I don't feel like I belong here. Yeah. I wish there was more diversity in Sackville, but given that they're not genuinely used to this us being here type of thing, it's going to be a learning and growing experience for both black and white people.
Yes, I definitely feel like there's going to be a learning curve with the majority and the minority, because I remember my first time coming to Canada, the things I experienced is the culture shocks that I experienced, especially when going out to the clubs and duckies and hearing the stories of like girls getting roofied. And like the stories I heard from students who came before me, how they told me about the racial disparities they faced, especially since coming to Canada from moving from their home countries. So for you, since you've moved to Canada, have you this besides like the microaggressions you already mentioned, have you had like any like negative experiences you've faced with like racism, abuse, mental health, like that?
I would say mental health for sure. Not to make the Bahamas sound like a terrible place. It's a great place. You should visit. But in terms of like acknowledging that mental health is a real thing, the LGBTQ plus being a real thing, there's a lot of things in the Bahamas that we're not up to speed with. So
Def
when I
agree.
came to Canada, that was in a sense culture shock for me. And I think I handled that well. But mental health, destruction. Um, it was a constant fight between trying to reach out to my parents and let them know like, hey, something is going on with me mentally,
Yeah.
and then being able to understand that it's a real thing. So
Right.
getting them to acknowledge that was hard, and also being away from family while that was happening was also hard. So mentally it was challenging, but like I said, I'll give credit to all my friends that helped me get through that process. And there are a lot of, surprisingly, yes, there are a lot of avenues in Canada, in Sackville, that allows you to handle mental health properly. And so, yeah, mental health was a big thing for me. And the way that things happen too in Canada, like you said, the clubs, it's very different than how we would enjoy ourselves at home. So,
Yeah, I know for us, like it might sound on this podcast where we aren't friends, but like I've known her for 3 years now. So
yeah,
um we've all heard the stories of like the things that happened from the people before us.
yeah.
I don't want to call names, but like we've all heard the stories of like the ducky stories.
Mm.
So since you've heard those stories, have you been like put on guard or like always like walking around with like a second well, not a second eye, but like a third eye?
Yeah. Well, I have four eyes. So yes, guys, I wear glasses. But yeah, I would definitely say I'm way more vigilant, and my guard is constantly up, especially when I go out to the club, because of the hookup culture that's around here in Sackville. So you have to be vigilant about that, and also because I am a minority, I'm a constant target. As sad as that might seem, it's the truth. Um, some things that I do, I will get in trouble for, opposed to my white counterpart. So you have to always be on guard with that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember definitely like first year, my roommate's friend told me she's of Asian descent, and she told me how she went into like a store here in Sackville, and then the lady said to her, "Oh my God, you speak such good English for an Asian." And I said, "What?"
What do you mean by that?
I I, I was shocked. I was like, "That's not okay to say."
Right.
And then she was trying to invalidate her own feelings, like, "Oh no, it's okay. I get it all the time." I'm like, "You're invalidating your own feelings and how you feel just to make the other person feel better. That's not okay to say." So, like, hearing that story, have you had like any like experiences like that in Canada, in Sackville, wherever, like throughout your life?
Most definitely. And he was a friend, ex-friend now. We were in Jennings, all at this table. And listen, my group of friends are very racially diverse. And so he made this statement that I have 99 problems, but being black is at the bottom of my list. Like that's one thing that I don't want to ever encounter. And he said that, and I'm getting a bit upset even
It's okay.
revisiting
Show your
that topic.
emotions.
He said that, and everyone at the table looked at him like, why would you say that? How can we consider you to be a friend? And you're sitting here speaking as if black people are below you. He's of white descent, evidently. And from that day forward, we never spoke to him again. He never really apologized for what was said. And I just came to realize that some people are delusional. and they just believe that they're better. But hey, if that's what you want to believe it. I'm all for that.
How did that experience make you feel? Was that first year?
Yes, first year.
So like your first year, fresh here at Mount Allison. How did that experience make you feel?
Honestly, it made me feel upset. When I think about it now, I still get upset. In that moment, there was pure rage. Like I wanted to fight. I felt very threatened at that point. Um, and I just wish that people could be more conscious of what they say and how it will be received when they say it.
That how it would be interpreted too. Mm-hmm.
Because how could you think that saying that is okay when you're sitting at a table filled with black people? How do you think they'll feel if you're literally saying like what do you mean by that? And honestly, that day was a rough day for me. I said, I don't know if I could do this Canada thing. You know, things are so different. People walk in the room, they don't say good morning, they don't say good afternoon. Those are things that I'm used to.
Yeah.
They don't hold the door for you. They don't do certain mannerly, courteous things. Like, so I'm like, man, the people up here are strange. That's the only thing I could say. The people up here are strange.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bit different. But, I mean, if you like it, I love it.
So like there are differences that we see from like Canada to like back home in the Bahamas. How have you been able to like connect with like your home even though you're away from home?
Like I've been mentioning a few times, I do surround myself with a good group of friends.
Yeah. Me included.
Yes, of course. Aside from that, the Mount Allison community has tried numerous times to bring together a community, like the Black Student Union, CSA, Mosaic. So there are various avenues at Mount Allison where you can go and find a home, and you can find some comfort in knowing that there are people at Mount Allison that are also experiencing the same things that you are. And so I, for one, was a part of CSA, and that's the Caribbean Student Association. And, you know, it was phenomenal when it worked, you know. And I appreciated those events and those moments that I spent with them, because for those split seconds, I felt like I was back home at a party. I felt like I was in my mom's kitchen eating her food.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that that really continue to motivate you.
Yeah. That's really good because like I know for me, like when I first got here, the girl that I met, she came up to me like, "Oh, are you Bahamian?" And she's like, "Oh, me too." And then like we started to connect, and like she introduced me to like a plethora of people, and then that people became my circle, and then that's who I'm close with today. So it's like the smallest things you do can help in such a great way. So over the past year, throughout the world, we've seen a fight for justice,
Right.
especially of the minority group, whether it be Black, Asian hate crime since the pandemic started. How has this affected you? Has this affected you in any way?
Honestly, it has. And like I said, I'm a sociology major, so this right here excites me to the max.
Yeah.
But before I speak on that, I want to say that some people think that because we aren't really a part of the United States, or because we aren't from Canada, this fight doesn't have anything to do with us as Bahamians. I disagree, because we're all Black. And I feel like that's where one of the issues lie. We are so segregated within ourselves.
I agree.
And so, yeah, it's an external fight between Black and white, but then you also have to look internally and see that there's also an internal fight with Black people.
Yeah.
And that's absurd. We need to stand as one if we want to see justice come about. And so, yes, with all of the recent happenings in the United States, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it's tragic. But I also want to say that I hate that it took all of this hate and fight and destruction to bring about actual progress. I just wish that people would take us seriously? Why can't we verbalize that we want to be taken seriously and be taken seriously? Why does it have to come to burning down a precinct? Why do we have to loot? Why do we have to throw fire? Why do we have to do those things for us to actually accomplish nothing that's even that substantial? Just being recognized as a race.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And like for me, I know like ever since this has started, like I've always had like a little bit of fear going to the US, but like now I'm even more scared to go to the US, or like to go to like a predominantly white country, or a country where I'm not like the majority race. Because like imagine if I was the person getting pulled over in the cop car, and like we always have lessons of like what to do. Like this is what you should do if you get pulled over, but like why should I be made inferior or belittled just to make someone who has in quote authority over me happy? Like that's not the same thing. Like even recently when we look at the incident of Ma'Khia Bryant, who was in a fight and she had a knife where she was defending herself up against the girls that were about to attack her, and then we look at the guy who was carrying an AR-15 assault rifle during a Black Lives Matter protest where he actually killed people, and they gave the white man who was carrying the AR-15 assault rifle water. They gave another one. They took him to a Burger King drive-thru. So it's the disparities in between the treatment that make me not understand. Like if white people can do all of these things, if the majority race can do all of these things, and I just have to say yes, sir. I have to be the one and held to the utmost standard because I'm most stereotyped. Why is that? And like that's the thing I like try to like cope with, because it scares me.
Yeah.
Because imagine me being pulled over by the police. Imagine me falling asleep in a Wendy's drive-thru. Absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. There's a lot of Karens out there, and it's disrespectful. That's all I can say to that. It is disrespectful. And if we look at the justice system, specifically police, I always say, you know what? It starts with them. Because how do we trust people that we're afraid of?
Yeah.
If there's fear, how do you trust?
Exactly.
And that's the scary part. Like you say, oh, I feel threatened. But you look and you're like, why would I feel threatened at a white man? Like, dude. And it's sad. It is sad. But sometimes I'm at a loss for words when I have to speak on these topics, because there aren't enough words that can express all of the emotions that happen when you do talk on these topics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's absurd that Black people are treated the way that they're treated because of their skin color.
Yeah.
You're telling me that as a police officer, you're threatened because I'm holding a brush?
Mm-hmm.
You're threatened because I'm walking in my own neighborhood. Something must be wrong with you psychologically, because I don't understand how you get threatened when I'm just holding something regular. Yeah. It's criminalization like that just works me up. And I say we have to start with the police. You need to have some sort of psychological test or something. They need to rotate them. They shouldn't be in the field all that time, because after a while it does play on your mental. It does. And then it causes you to develop stereotypes and phobias. And that's where you see trigger happy police patrolling our streets.
Yeah. Especially within the Black community, we're so stereotyped. If we see a darker complexioned female, she raises her voice, she's considered an angry Black woman. If we see a Black man walking down the street and his pants are too loose, he's considered a gangster. So like in like your life, have you like ever been like stereotyped in that way?
No, I wouldn't say that I've ever been stereotyped in the way of being an angry Black woman.
Yeah.
And that's merely because I've been taught to be more reserved, because of issues like this, of course. But let's speak on that for a while. Angry Black women. Let's start there, right? Women are so disadvantaged all over the world. It's I just feel sorrowful for them. And angry Black women, I hate the term. Women are angry because of the way that they're treated. It's impossible that you can say, oh, she's looking to be treated the way she's treated because look at how she dressed. How about we tell a man to take responsibility for himself? There's no way that the way a woman dress affects the way you react and treat her. If she wants to wear a short dress, she should be able to wear a short dress without having nasty comments directed to her. Women are angry. Women in general. This right here can be standard. Women in general are angry because they are treated terribly. And it's the only way that we're recognized as angry women is because that's the only time we're seen, is when we get angry. Men, now our black men, this is a problem in itself. There's a lot of generational trauma that goes into the way black men are raised, black boys. There's a lot of community violence that plays into that, lack of a father figure in their lives, and it's a cycle that can be broken, but we need to take the step in the right direction to see that happen.
So you've mentioned how you've been taught to be more reserved to avoid the negative aspects of the stereotypes. How has that played a role in the way you conduct your life?
I would say that it's both a plus and a negative. A negative because when I see conflict, I try to avoid it and I go, oh, well, that's not my business. When I should be saying, hey, this is not okay, and I need to be more confrontational, and I need to speak up on matters that go against what is ethical or what is moral. And a positive because I would say I'm not really stereotyped that much, and I'm very short, so it's like, who's gonna be afraid of like a 5-foot black girl? Like, you know what I mean? It still happens because Karens, but it still happens because Karens, but honestly, positively speaking, it keeps me kind of sheltered in a way. But I want to work on kind of breaking away from that.
As an international student in a predominantly white country, a predominantly white school, you've gone through different experiences, right? We've talked about them. We've heard them. How have you felt that your voice has been heard throughout the community here in Sackville, throughout the community on campus, throughout the community in Canada?
No. I would say no because I feel like international voices and our opinions are overlooked a lot of times, and that mainly stems from us being the minority. There's always this thing of majority rules, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. You know, it should be equality. Give me some equity. You know what I mean? Like, we are at a disadvantage. And even if we look at the COVID-19 situation, let's bring this into perspective. When all the universities decided to close down and, you know, students had to go back to where they came from in such a short period of time, it's things like that where you see the MTA community and the Sackville community not really taken into consideration.
Yeah.
The international students or the international life that resides here.
Yeah, especially Sackville. With like travel restrictions, everything that was in place. So definitely. Like it was like either you find somewhere to go or like you can't be here.
Like you just can't like I don't know what you want us to do, but you can't be here.
Yeah.
So like I'm miles and miles and waters, oceans away from where I reside, and you're kicking me out of residence. You're telling me like I don't know what you're gonna do, but you gotta go because residence is closing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do I do? How do I know that, or how do you know that my parents has the money to pay for a ticket for me to get home right now?
Yeah.
Especially given that COVID was just starting and there was a lot of confusion going on. Everybody was panic buying. Everyone was just losing their heads.
Yeah.
And then to throw on another added layer of stress to say, well, we're closing down the university and you got to kick rocks.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, Like, I definitely understand, especially because if you're like from the Bahamas, or like, let's say you're from India, some parts of Asia, like you have to deal with the pandemic going on. Then you have to add you have to add the extra stress of like buying groceries, make sure your house is stocked. Then you have to follow COVID-19 restrictions that were like changing like every day, every week.
Rapidly.
Then you also have to add the stress of bringing my child home, quarantining. How do I deal with this? So I don't think there was like compassion in the situation. There was definitely no like compassion.
I agree. And the thing is, if you really think about it, like how you said, if you're from Asia or if you're from India, that's where COVID first hit, and it was terrible in those countries at that time. Flights weren't even going out to those countries like that. They were really down in the gutter, and for you to just look and see that you have a certain amount of Asian students, a certain amount of Indian students, and you're saying, well, you gotta go. Where are they gonna go?
Yeah.
The countries are in complete lockdown. Where are they going to go? I feel as if that's kind of something that MTA could have picked up some slack on, and definitely could have said, hey, listen, I understand. We're all in this together. We're gonna help. Even if we say we're gonna close down all of the dorms and leave one dorm open for all the students that can't get home right now, I would have been all for it.
Yeah. And like I don't want to just like say this is just like MTA on the whole. I'm sure like other international students experience this like at their schools, but right now we're speaking from our personal experience and like what we saw for ourselves. So like we talked about like our negative experiences. How have you like overcome them? How did you cope with everything that you've been through? Like how do you still end up on top today?
Am I on top?
Well, I don't know. You might be in the middle, but
okay, I would say that I'm still growing.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle. I'm climbing my stairs. Yeah, I'm getting there. And everything is a slow process. Like nothing happens overnight, and nothing happens like in a few days. So from first year to now, I would definitely say that I'm different. I'm a better person. I'm a better version of myself.
I can agree.
Yes. Whatever. So and how I achieved that was basically just taking it one day at a time, learning more about Sackville, learning more about the history of Sackville, learning more about the people that stay here, educating the people that are here, because it's evident that they lack the education about
ignorance is not an excuse.
It's not an excuse. It's not, because you can go on social media, you can go on the internet, and you can get what you need.
And even if you still don't understand, reach out.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it's all about educating. And I would say that I have less encounters now. And it's honestly beautiful. CSA did an amazing thing where they had Caribbean nights, and I noticed other people coming out and learning about our culture and how we party and how we have a good time, and watching that shift over time just by educating and teaching and leading by example. It shows promise that we can coexist. It's capable that people can learn and be accepting, not tolerating, but being truly accepting of other people. And so I would say it's a learning experience. I'm taking it one step at a time. In terms of my mental health, I would say I take way more mental days, and I try to actually acknowledge my emotions, because that's something that kind of causes me to have a mental breakdown, is when I try to push away or suppress my emotions. But when I have mental days where I actually accept them and allow myself to feel, it all works out for the better. So,
yeah. I love that you're still growing, still like you're like a rose. Like you're slowly losing your petals so you can grow again and become and blossom for who you are.
Yeah.
So like we've both been in Canada for 3 years, upcoming 4th. And we've both been in situations where we've had negative experiences and so on and so forth. What is one piece of advice that you could offer to someone who is in your situation? They're coming from their home country where they're predominant or majority ethnicity or race, and they're coming here to Canada where they become the minority, where they don't see people who look like them every day. What is one piece of advice you could offer them to make them feel comfortable in the situation that they're going to be in?
My first thing would be to surround yourself with good friends and good people, good vibes always. When you always have a closeness that reminds you of what it is that you have at home. It's almost like you're reciprocating, right? So surrounding yourself with good people is always a good step that you can take. I would also say, don't be so closed off to new ideas or a different way of living life. For me, I am very closed off. I am very predictable. I do the same thing every time. And change is not something that I genuinely, lean towards or lean into. But my advice to you is to just lean into it. Look at this opportunity as coming into somewhere new, fresh. It's a good start. So be open to it. But also be smart and wise in the things that you do. Be vigilant and understand that there are different perspectives out there that just won't agree with you, but just keep on moving.
Yeah. So, would you say that this journey that you've been on with growth has led you to like self-love?
Definitely. I would say that I am like way more self-confident now
Yeah.
because like in the Bahamas, like self-confident in terms of like, my body and so on and so forth. Because in the Bahamas, they have this thing where they're hell bent on having thick girls and like,
Yeah.
all those things going on. And like coming to Canada and hearing people be like, oh my God, you have such a nice shape. Like you're so like nice and proportionate. And I'm like, really? I don't see it. I'm looking in the mirror and I look anorexic. Like I look, and body dysphoria is a real thing. But I would say that, like I said, coming to a new country and understanding a new culture and accepting it, it really helps you to grow within yourself and grow into yourself. And it helps you to build a different kind of love and appreciation that you have for yourself. Honestly, some days I wake up, my hair is not fixed, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, damn, I look fine. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I feel like I look good. I can go out like this. Nobody's going to care, So it's like, do you? And the Canadian culture is way more laxed than like the Bahamian culture.
Yeah.
Canadians aren't so like concerned with looks.
Yeah.
So like I would say that this definitely gave me an opportunity to like find myself and like, understand what I like, what I don't like. Go through a phase where I'm like trying it all out, looking stink in the process and not caring. So I feel more confident in myself. There's still a lot of things and issues and insecurities that I am dealing with. But that's all in the process of climbing it one stair at a time.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about like the lax culture here that we see because like I know back home it's like, oh, if you're going to the movies, people are like, where are you going in that? Like, why you look like that? Like, put on some better clothes or
Right.
something like that. And then when you're here, you're just like, oh, you look fine.
Yeah,
You're okay.
you can go in some
Yeah.
sweats.
You're only going to the
Throw
movies.
on your Blundstones, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like it's literally I'm like, what? Like if I was back home and I was talking about going to the movies in sweats, like where are you going?
Yeah.
No. But see, for me it's like you have to find that balance because it's like looking raggedy it's something that I just don't agree with. So like, yeah, I can go in sweats, but like I could be wearing some sweats and I can have on a nice top to match that sweats. You know what I mean? Like you can't go full out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like, question. I know for me, like here I'm more laxed about my style, but like when I go back home, I find myself slipping back into the ways of like being more cautious of like the way I look, the things I dress like to go to like work or like to go out to go to like dinner and stuff. And like for me, I always make the comparison like for us back home in the Bahamas when we like go to business, we wear like formal business attire. Like we wear skirts, nice like satin pants or like a button down shirt, like a polo shirt with like a nice sweater. And for girls, they wear like skirts, heels sometimes, maybe some flats, like a nice blazer over it. And I look at like the culture here in Canada where like if I work in a technology store, I can wear like a t-shirt and jeans. And I always wondered like that professional barrier that we see. Like why is it like the way I dress determines my level of education or like determines the authority I invoke? Like that's what I always find myself like thinking when I always slip backwards.
Yeah. I kind of agree with everything that you just said. Mainly speaking about, like, there's this professional barrier, and it's obvious that there is a difference in terms of back home and here in Canada. And I would say that there is this difference, or you're asking the question, why is there this difference, is because at home we're more materialistic.
Judgmental.
Okay, we're judgmental. Correct.
Definitely
Yes, guys,
judgmental.
I'm definitely judgmental. But yes, there is that materialistic, what you look like is half of who you are. Like, those things are actual real stigmas.
Yeah.
So people take you for face value at home.
Yeah.
How you look is how you act.
Especially, like, if you have a nice car. Oh,
Yeah.
that person has money.
He has money.
Yeah.
Or she has money. And it's sad. How you look is how you act, because then that's how you create stereotypes and you build stigmas about people.
Yep.
Oh, he wearing his pants low. He from Beantown and he ghetto. Like,
yeah.
Can't that just be the way that I dress?
Yeah.
Can't that
definitely,
just
for
be
sure.
the style that I'm into?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said, the Bahamas is decades behind the world in terms of socially, getting to where they need to go and being socially forward. So in comparison to Canada, I feel like they got it. They understand, like, you can wear jeans and a t-shirt, and that does not affect the way you work here.
Yep.
So, and I appreciate that. And sometimes I wish I could still dress up and be professional and go to work or whatever. But, like, and I can do it. They don't care. Like, do whatever you want. You're free to do whatever. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
They're watching their own road.
Like, I know one time we were, like, hosting interviews for, like, a family business. And, like, this guy, he came in, like, a button-down shirt and jeans. And then the lady who was hosting the interview said, that's not professional attire. You go back home, you get some pants, and then you come back. And I'm like, number one, no. You don't do that to people, because one, you're judging them. Number two, you don't know the financial situation this person is in. You don't know what this person has done just to come to this interview to get the job. So, like, you're not showing the right effort. And just because what he wears, that doesn't determine his mindset, his level of
Exactly.
intelligence, his ability to do the job to the best of his ability. And that's what I think we had that construct in the Bahamas. And I feel like when I was growing up, that made me kind of sad in a way. Like, I was never happy with, like, the way I looked, because it was always like, oh, you're too fat, or like, oh, you're too, like, loud, or like, you're too boisterous or flamboyant, when it's just like, I'm just not fitting in with the constructs that you're used to, or what you want to see, or what you have stereotyped for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're placing a stereotype on me, and that has made me, like, sort of kind of, like, unhappy, and, like, I've had to, like, learn to come to terms with who I am for myself.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, speaking on, like, stigmas on the way you look, growing up, it was rough for me. Now I'm, like, kind of self-secure in how I look, with all my braces and all that stuff. But, like, from I went to high school until I was done with high school, I hated everything about me. I
Yeah.
hated my face. I hated my skin color. I hated my body type.
Yep.
I hated the way my voice sound. I would say, to an extent, there is a toxicity surrounding body image,
Yep.
personality, and character traits. It's a toxicity surrounding that in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And I only now feel that freeness when I come to Canada. But even when I do go home, I see myself kind of reverting back to feeling like, like, here, I'll be confident wearing a short pants, like, and I'm like, hey, I look thick. And I go home and I'm like, I can't wear that because, like, I'm going to look stink, and they're going to say this, they're going to say that.
Yeah.
And it's so much concern surrounding what other people think of you. Like, it's so tense instead of it actually being free.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I appreciate about Canada. It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because I remember, like, the first day of high school, like, I was just there talking to people, like, getting to know people. And then I guess, like, people in, like, the upper years, they noticed me because I was, like, really loud. And then so, like, they came over and, like, tried to, like, take my lunch money.
No.
And so, like, I ran away, and then I ended up falling.
Oh, no.
And then, so like my whole uniform was dirty with like dirt. And then like the vice principal saw me and she was like, oh, what happened? And then I told her the story. Keep in mind, I'm in grade 7. That person was like in grade 10.
Yeah.
And so like I told her the story and then she suspended him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day he came back, I was bullied throughout my whole 3 years of going to that school. And I was just unhappy. Like every day I would come home and like cry. I would just be sad about like where I was in my life.
Yeah. I agree. Speaking on the terms of bullying, I was bullied. Like I said, I kind of stopped getting bullied like in grade 9. But in grade 7, guys, my teeth was, it was a work. God really did a number. And I was bullied for that every single day. Mind you, before I went to high school, I never once looked in the mirror and said, wow, I hate my smile. I thought I had the most beautiful smile on this planet.
Yep.
And I went to grade 7, and from the first day until the ending of the 8th grade, I was bullied. Like, because of my teeth.
Wow.
And because of how dark I was. And because of, like, how skinny I was bullied. And I would go home every day. And I would cry to my parents. I would tell them how unhappy I am. But how do you help your child? Like, you can say, like, it's going to be okay. Like, don't worry about it. Like, what does that do? I still have to go to school tomorrow and handle that same issue continuously. Until the 9th grade, I started saying, babe, if you say something to me, I can F you up. And listen. And that's why I'm kind of hard now. I'm so rough around the edges. But, like, inside, I'm, like, this soft person. But I had to build this exterior around myself to protect me from, like, these people around me that just want to pick on me because I look different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. Like, I wonder what, like, the difference is between, like, grade 6 and 7. It's, like, that whole one summer that could, like, change your whole life. Because in grade 6, you could think, oh, yeah, like, I'm just, like, the tallest in the class, or like I'm just like tall, or I'm just like the biggest in the class, but like there were no issues with that. But like when you go into grade 7, it's always like, oh, why are you so fat? Like and then like sometimes your parents are like, oh, you know what, you could lose a little weight, you know, why don't you eat a salad instead of having this burger or something like that. Like I wonder what that switch is. That like I feel like it's a mental switch between like us, and I wonder if it's like the summer experience.
I don't know if I'll necessarily say it's the summer experience. I think it's just the grade. It's the idea of you going into grade 7. Like, you're no longer in primary school where you're considered or treated a kid. Yeah. You know, in grade 7, you're what, 12, 13? Mm-hmm. That's the teenage years. Like, you're getting up in age. So now, like, your parents are like, I no longer need to treat you like a kid. You need to start taking responsibility and having a sense of knowingness for yourself. So I would say that it's the age. And it's also the grade. Yeah. It's a different ball game when you go into high school. When you go into middle school, in junior school, it's a different ball game. And like you said, in grade 6, you're like, oh, I'm taller than the others, but I'm not going to die. You go into grade 7, you're taller than all the boys. And they're like, why are you so tall? Yeah. Like, why don't you have any breasts? Like, why would you ask me that? Like, I don't know, genetics? Maybe? I don't know. So, I don't know. I guess it's that different. Like, we're getting old now. And, like, we're supposed to have these. We're supposed to look like Kylie Jenner. And we're supposed to do this. And we're supposed to do that. So, I feel as if when we get into high school, that's when all the societal norms start to fall right on our shoulders. Our parents no longer responsible for them. They're on us now. Yeah. You're responsible for yourself.
Definitely, for sure. Like when you said that societal norms part, like it clicked to me. I was like, yes, you're definitely hitting the nail on the head with that point. And like, I'm thankful for this journey though. I'm thankful for all of my experiences because it helped me find my happiness. Yeah. And I'm so precious with my happiness, you know? Right. Like, I'm in a relationship. I'm living my best life. Hopefully I can get vaccinated so I can be on the streets. But, like, for you, you've been through all these journeys. You've had, like, different experiences within your life. What does your happiness mean to you?
My happiness means everything. And you know, I would say that sometimes I give my happiness too freely because some people do not deserve my happiness.
Oh, period. Message.
Received. But honestly, I would say my happiness means everything to me, and I always pride myself on the people that I keep around me because I need to protect my energy, because I know that once I let you in, it's easier for you to hurt me, and it's easier for you to see my vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because once I let you in, I'm comfortable with you. So some things I wouldn't say if I didn't trust you, I'm going to say, and I didn't even want to say it. So that's why I'm saying, like, if I give you that opportunity and I say, you know what, he deserves to see all of me, because he had a little taste of my happiness, and he didn't misuse it. He didn't take advantage of it, or she didn't take advantage of it. And man, happiness to me, it's everything. What is everything? Everything is everything. Happiness is just my body. Happiness is my schoolwork. Happiness is my volunteer work. Happiness is my friends,
Right. So, final question.
All right.
You're growing with your self-love. We're growing with happiness. But of course, not all the times we're in like that mood of happiness. We're not always happy. We're not always the best we can be. What are some mechanisms that you use personally to like bring yourself into a better you despite what you're going through?
Okay, so honestly, with all this corona going on, winter semester was the toughest for me. And even now, this summer is kind of tough, like, because I've not seen my boyfriend in so long, and guys, he's a big part of my happiness. Like, it's eating away from me daily.
Yeah.
And I don't really express that to my friends because they have all their stuff going on. They have their relationships to worry about. They have all these things. So I'm like, it's just me dying with myself. So I find myself just like watching Netflix or like listening to music, going on walks, eating a lot. I don't think that's a good coping mechanism. Don't use that one, guys. Don't use that one. But I would say listening to music and meditating. Exercising is also very good. But mainly I like to speak to people. I like to express myself. And sometimes if I can't do that, I write. And when I write, I find that I feel better. I feel like everything that I needed to say, I got out. And then I can go back out and socialize with friends and forget about how I was even feeling in the first place. So, yeah.
Aww, I love that for you.
Yeah.
I love that, like, your coping mechanisms are, like, growing as you grow. And, like, you're not turning into, like, the negative aspects of, like, your coping mechanisms. And I feel like that's really, like, great. And I hope that you continue to be happy or whatever.
Yeah, I would definitely say I grew. Because, like, back in the day, I would have just, like, locked myself up in the dark somewhere and just, like, cried myself to sleep. But now I force myself into positive ways of, like, getting back to who I truly am by doing those things that I mentioned. So, yeah.
It's really good.
Don't be for the streets, though, guys. Get yourself someone who loves you.
No hot girl summer.
Period. Oh, hot girl summer. Tell your boyfriend, pick you up outside.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being on my show. I really enjoyed having you as a guest. You were one I anticipated that came with like a lot of knowledge. Like I didn't give you any questions beforehand. This is her personal thoughts, her true thoughts, true feelings on the situations we talked about today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed speaking with you today, and I hope you invite me back because this is a vibe, guys.
I just want to say thank you so much again. You were a great guest to have on the show. This interview was very insightful, and I'm sure anybody who was in either of our situations learned something, learned how to cope with their feelings and emotions. And I just want to say thank you again. I love you.
Oh, not the LOVE. Not the LOVE. Love you too, Thor Levi.
Yes. Thank you. And this is it for the I Love Me podcast. Come back next Saturday for an all new exciting episode with I don't know who yet, but don't worry, you'll see next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.